Comics can get pretty weird, but when taken out of context, some comic panels can seem even weirder. Today I'm going to go through some of my favorite out of context comic panels and put them in context. These have been gathered mostly from Reddit. So the first panel we'll be looking at today is this one, the one where Batman says, "You're the trash can," and we see the trash can grow legs and start to run away. Now many comic readers, when they see this panel, if they don't know what it's from, assume it's Plastic Man that's the trash can. And if you don't know who Plastic Man is, a very powerful shapeshifter within the DC universe, and probably one of the strongest heroes in any universe. But this is actually not Plastic Man here, so who is it? To find this out, we need to look at issue 16 of Injustice 2. This comic starts with Batman knocking on a door, looking for Luke McDonough. So who is this? It is Plastic Man's son. So, when people assume it's Plastic Man, they're not far off. When the door is opened after Batman knocks, he tells the man who answers he knows he's Luke, and that he needs to do a better job disguising his voice. After this, Luke attempts to hide from Batman by transforming into various things. An armchair, the trash can, a rug, a pile of pizza boxes, but Batman sees through it every time. And not only is Batman here looking for Luke, but also his father, Plastic Man. And Plastic Man was on Luke's wrist as a watch, and Batman did not detect him. But let me explain the reason he's hiding from Batman here. After Superman killed Joker and became dictator of the world, Plastic Man and his son both stood up against him. After Luke was imprisoned, Plastic Man broke him out. They take refuge in the mirror world for a while, before eventually coming back to the real world and disguising themselves and living in that apartment. Batman eventually convinces them they're needed for the mission he's trying to recruit them for, though, and they end up joining his Justice League later. Let's move on to our next out-of-context panel. In this panel, we see Iron Man telling Spider-Man they have money, and elated, Spider-Man is hugging Iron Man. This panel is from issue 2 of Jonathan Hickman's run on Avengers from 2012. If you're a Spider-Man fan, or you have at least seen the Tobey Maguire movies, you are probably aware of the fact that Spider-Man is usually tight for money and has to sell photos of himself dressed up as Spider-Man to J. Jonah Jameson just to pay his bills. In this comic, Captain America and Iron Man are trying to find members for the Avengers, and they're reaching out to different people. They offer Wolverine beer, and he agrees to join. Here they offer Spider-Man money, and he agrees to join. They talk to Falcon, and Falcon agrees to join out of his commitment to Captain America, his respect for Captain America. Then they talk to some other heroes too, and get them involved. But isn't that kind of selfish, especially for Spider-Man, to need an incentive to join the Avengers and help save the world? Well, if we go back and look at some older Avengers runs, we can see that even without a paycheck, even without major benefits, he still would join the team to help the world. If we go back and look at New Avengers from 2005, we can see that Peter agrees to join the Avengers, even though they have no funding, they have no paychecks. But this scene perfectly encapsulates why Spider-Man is one of the most popular and most relatable heroes out there. He has struggles. He's not just some heroic figure from another world that can do anything he wants. He struggles with bills, he struggles with not having a job, he struggles balancing his superhero identity with his civilian identity. And although some of those things are fantastical and things we will never have to deal with, a lot of us today do struggle with money. A lot of us struggle to meet rent and live paycheck to paycheck. So if you were a superhero, I think you would be elated to get a paycheck and maybe not even have to work a day job and try to balance that dual identity at work. Next up, we have this panel, and this panel has actually been edited. It shows Superman offering a bottle of liquor, saying everything is going to be okay. Now you might think, oh, is the liquor edited into his hand? Was it a bottle of something else? No, the only thing that's been edited here is in the original panel, he's saying the character's name that he is talking to. You notice there's an odd space at the bottom of the word bubble. That's where a name was removed, and we'll talk about whose name that is later. But for now, just know that this is an edited panel. This panel is from a comic series called All-Star Section 8. Now, this is not actually the first appearance of the Section 8 team. The first appearance of the original Section 8 team was in Hitman number 18, which was written by Garth Ennis. And if you don't know who Garth Ennis is, he is the mind behind The Boys, the comic series turned hit popular TV show that is a satirical take on superheroes. And Garth Ennis has always had a weird relationship with superheroes. Garth Ennis has a disdain for superheroes, and this is one of his superhero teams that is just a satirical take on superheroes. His team is led by Six Pack, a drunk guy who continuously pees himself, and 7 other members who are very off-the-wall characters, most of whom die before the start of All-Star Section 8. So, when All-Star Section 8 starts, we are at an art show, where we see a man entertaining some guests, before he accidentally drinks the wrong drink. He's been sober for years, and he accidentally drinks a drink with alcohol in it, and he starts to spiral. He starts to hallucinate, and soon, we find ourselves in the world of DC Comics. Six Pack awakens in a bar in the DC universe in his superheroic identity of Six Pack, and he is determined to create a new Section 8. He knows something is coming. He doesn't know what, but he knows something is. So he gathers Dog Welder, who is actually the second Dog Welder after the first one passed away, the Grappler, a guy that knows how to use a grappling hook, but not well, Bueno Excellene, a pervert who only says bueno and excellene, Power Tool, a man with a drill on his helmet, Guts, a living pile of organs, and Bader, the demon prince of criminal insanity. Only 7 members. He realizes he needs an 8th, so most of the rest of the series is him finding other heroes, or more like other heroes coming to him, and him trying to figure out who the last member is going to be. So in this first issue, we see Batman, and then there's a bunch of references to various Batman stories throughout the years. When Bane broke Batman's back, when Jason Todd died and Batman held his body in his arms. Next issue, we see Green Lantern, and he also refuses to join Section 8. He interviews other heroes, but no one really wants to join, and Six Pack starts to have hallucinations of being cold, laying in an alley, just a homeless drunk. By issue 6, Superman has found Six Pack, not drunk in an alley, in his superhero costume, and has brought him to the Fortress of Solitude. Six Pack then explains, he thinks this entire world is a hallucination. He thinks he really is out there, passed out in an alley. He points out how repetitive the world is. People die and come back. People fight the same battles over and over. No matter how many times a criminal is captured, they always escape. And isn't that just something that would be a drunk man's fantasy? Some good times he's having in his mind as he disassociates? Superman takes him to a park and shows him a statue of Six Pack, and this restores some of Six Pack's faith in himself. And that's when Superman hands him the bottle and says, "Everything is going to be okay, Six Pack." On the very last page of this series, we see Six Pack laying in the alley, wrapped in Superman's cape, something to protect him from the cold. And at the same time, we see him in his superhero costume, running out into the street, ready to face whatever evil comes towards him next. Superhero satire is kind of everywhere these days, but you could do a lot worse than this comic series. There's some things I like about it, there's some things I think are over the top, and part of that is probably just because I think a lot of things Garth Ennis does is over the top, and so a lot of that comes through. But I do really think it is a fun satirical take on the DC universe, and it makes fun of the characters in a way that I enjoy. Like I said, with the Batman panels that show him in like his most iconic moments, but with Six Pack, I think it's very funny. And if you're a big DC fan, I would recommend reading it. You know, much like Six Pack is alone in that alley in the real world, I do these videos alone. I edit them, script them, all of that's me. I don't have a team behind me. I don't have enough money to pay for a team or anything. I don't make any money off YouTube yet. So, if you would like to support me in any way, the best way to do that is to share my video with others, or if you have the means, you can go support me on Patreon. I currently only have one tier that's $5 a month, but I will say your name in my video or put it up as text on the screen, and you'll get updates about what projects I'm working on. Let's move on to our next panel. So here we see Barney Rubble and Fred Flintstone seated at a coffee shop. And as Barney asks if this all feels familiar, Fred says we participated in a genocide. At first, this might seem like a Family Guy cutaway, or a scene from a parody comic, but this is from an officially licensed Hanna-Barbera Flintstones comic. In 2016, Warner Brothers, the parent company that owns both Hanna-Barbera and DC Comics, decided to combine the two. They created Hanna-Barbera Beyond, in which they reinvented a bunch of Hanna-Barbera characters, taking them in a more adult direction. Their initial lineup consisted of 4 series. Wacky Raceland, a Mad Max-like series featuring the characters from Wacky Races. Future Quest, a series featuring Johnny Quest, Space Ghost, and many other Hanna-Barbera characters. Scooby Apocalypse, a series following the Scooby Gang as they survive a monster apocalypse. And the Flintstones. In this series, we follow the citizens of Bedrock as they deal with issues that we deal with today, such as consumerism, religion, or as this panel emphasizes, being a war vet. This panel is specifically from issue 5. This comic covers multiple real-life issues. We start the comic with an election. Bedrock's current mayor is going up against Claude the Destroyer in a political debate, in which, when the two are asked about the issue of lizard people, the current mayor says they need to take it slow and not make any rash decisions, but Claude says, "History is written in the blood of your enemies." This causes the audience to erupt into cheers and start chanting Claude's name. We then see Fred and Barney in the audience, looking unamused. And right after this is when they head to the coffee shop, and we get the panel that I talked about before. We then flash back in time. We see Fred and Barney living in a tent with their wives, Wilma and Betty. As they are heading out of the tent, Fred asks Barney if him and Betty ever think about starting a family. Barney says it's all they think about. We then see that he went to a medicine man and found out he had slow sperm. As the two are walking, they see a crowd gathered and a man on a stage explaining that they should all be miserable living in tents and that they need to start building a city out of rock, and there's a perfect spot for it. That's when we're introduced to Mordok the Destroyer, the father of Claude, and he is rambling about how the tree people that live in the forest are plotting to overthrow them and steal their land, so they need to strike first. Young and easily radicalized, Fred decides he needs to protect Wilma and the baby she's pregnant with, so he enlists, and he also pressures Barney into enlisting. When the two tell their wives are outraged and can't believe their stupidity, but the boys are sent to basic training anyway. After finishing basic training, they're sent into the forest, and they hunt down the tree people. Eventually, the soldiers, with their superior technology, wipe out the tree people, but as they're searching for survivors, Barney finds a baby hidden in a tree, brings this baby to Betty so they can raise the child as their own, after he basically heard her say earlier that she might leave him if he can't have kids. We then see that Claude won the election in the modern day. Now, if this sounds intriguing to you at all, and you're a Flintstones fan, or you just like those kinds of stories, I recommend this. It's pretty good. There are some things that I think are a little on the nose or a little too much, but for the most part, I like this series. Now, if you see this panel, or there's another one that kind of floats around where Fred talks about how he wears a tie because it's the job he wants, and then he gets asked how long he's been wearing the tie, and he says 15 years. That's actually from the first issue of the series. So there are a few panels from the series that kind of get shared around as like, oh, isn't this show shocking? And that brings us to the end of our video. If you want to see a sequel to this, or you like any of the other videos on my channels, or you have an idea for another video I can do, leave a comment down below and let me know what that is, and just have a great day.